Hello, good morning, and welcome to the second Snapcraft Docs Day. I'm Alan Pope, and with me is David Calais. Hello, David. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Hi, everyone.
Super.
So today,
what
are we going to do?
So this is the second of our Docs Days. It's quite a relaxed atmosphere on these videos. The second of our Docs Days. So we started this last month, and the aim is to do this on the last Friday of every month. And the goal of this is really just to make sure that our documentation is accurate, appropriate, and it all works, and there aren't any gaps in the documentation for Snapcraft. So really, this is the goal of the day is to get people trying out the documentation and making sure that it's right, and we haven't got any typos in there, because while we do test all of it before we publish the documentation, errors slip in and sometimes systems change, and maybe we haven't reflected that in the documentation. We want to make sure it's right. So that's where it's a great easy way for other people to get involved in the project, because follow the steps in the guide. If they don't work, tell us. If they do work, hooray, the documentation is working. So I'll just share my screen quickly, because there's a couple of things I want to show. So hopefully, if I click this button here, you should see the Snapcraft forums. Is that right, David?
Yes, it's at forum.snapcraft.io.
Perfect. So we posted this here as a kind of notice to the community to let you all know. There's a lot more detail if you click through. I wrote a blog post with some stuff, and David added some more info down the bottom. So do you want to go through some of this stuff down the bottom?
Yeah. So as Alan said, the goal today is to test the documentation, and of course, if you have time and if you want to help, contribute to it. So it's rather easy. On Alan's blog post, you will find links to all the documentation and and the source code in general, and where to fix things. I guess a good way to help today is to triage bugs. And of course, if you have time, fix them. But just giving a hand into handling bug triaging is a really good way to start contributing. And especially if you have filed a bug and you feel it's being ignored or buried under other bugs, just let us know, bump the bug, come talk to us, because of course we want to make sure nobody's forgotten there. Then we also have tutorials.ubuntu.com, which is heavily focused on snaps. So a good way to help is to test drive these tutorials. And today's topic, no, it's ubuntu.com.
I knew that.
Of course you did. And of course we write them, we test them a lot. But today's topic is Ubuntu flavors, topic of the Docs Day. And we haven't had the chance to test the tutorials on all flavors. So if you are using a flavor, just give a tutorial a try. We have very short ones, we have long ones. The shortest one is 10 minutes, the longest one is a bit more than 1 hour. So just, if you have the time, give them a try and give us your feedback. On Alan's blog, you have the link to report bugs on tutorials and to fix them. One nice thing is that tutorials right now are Google Docs, so the barrier to come and contribute to them is fairly low. So just come in, ask for editing rights, and or suggest fixes in the tutorials themselves. It's really useful. And of course, we are looking into people to get a bit of QA on the Snap experience in general, installing Snap, building snaps on your Ubuntu flavor. It would be really useful. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So on the documentation, there are several places to report bugs. All of them are on GitHub. and you will find bugs that are tags with a bite-sized tag. So you can start on this. And I think that's pretty much it. I've covered everything.
Awesome. So I also made a list of some other things. So yeah, I want to reiterate the what David said about flavors. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of Ubuntu flavors. For those who don't know, flavors is just our term for versions of Ubuntu that are built from the same archive of software. So you'll know familiar names like Kubuntu and Xubuntu and Ubuntu Budgie and Ubuntu Mate. And as David said, we don't necessarily test every tutorial on every single flavor, but we soon get notified when one breaks. You know, someone who's running one of those flavors will tell us. But that doesn't always happen, which is why it would be lovely if those of you who are running those flavors, if you prefer Ubuntu Budgie over Ubuntu and you want to try creating snaps, then you'd be a great candidate for today's Docs Day. So there's also a few other hints on the blog post down the bottom under the section Happy Hour of other things you might want to do. So maybe you've gone through the tutorials and they all seem to work for you and you didn't find any bugs there, or you want to stretch yourself a little bit further. Then we have these extra things, which is snapping other people's projects. So this is super useful because there are many upstream projects who maybe haven't heard of snaps, or they're looking at all the different ways in which they could package their software. Maybe they haven't packaged their software. Maybe their software is just on GitHub and they expect you to do a git clone and just build it directly from source. It would be a lot better for everyone if it was a snap and users could just snap install that application and get regular updates and a securely deployed application. So maybe you could contribute to those upstream projects by snapping them. So, make sure all the tools work by actually testing them in a real world scenario. So there's some tips down here at the bottom of the blog post about tips on looking for projects that might need snapping. So if you need some inspiration, there's some links there to GitHub trending projects or trending projects in a particular language. You don't necessarily need to be a Go expert to package a Go application. So don't worry too much about that. I mean, I'm not a Go expert by any stretch, and I've managed to package a few Go applications. It's pretty trivial. And there's various other places there. You can also ask us. We have a Rocket Chat. So you can jump on the Snapcraft channel on Rocket Chat and ask us for suggestions. Anyone got any ideas of something to snap? We all have our own little private lists of, things we'd all personally like to get snapped. And if you ask in there, I'm sure someone will give you suggestions, especially if you have a particular pet favorite language or framework or something that you're interested in, we can probably suggest something for you. And there's some tips in there about, start small, start with a small, maybe a command line only application. It's a lot easier to snap. I mean, it's relatively easy to snap anything really, but it's a lot easier to snap something which has one command and is a simple command line application than it is to build something that requires tens of dependencies bundled in and has a graphical user interface. And it's just typically, as you'd expect, something small is easier to package than something huge. I did say there, pick applications with languages you're familiar with. So I've packaged a few Python things because I can debug that. I haven't really done much in the way of packaging Java stuff because I don't know Java. But the important thing is, once you've got something, even if it like half works, is contribute it upstream so the developer can see it and see what's needed in order to snap their application. And you could create a pull request on the upstream project and detail, what you did to create the snap and attach the snapcraft YAML and the steps necessary to build the snap, which you can point to our documentation for that. But typically it's, install snapcraft, run snapcraft in that directory in order to test it. And, if you've got something successfully snapped, then you could consider uploading it to the store. Snapcraft can do that directly from the command line. So after you've built it, you could just do snapcraft push and then the name of your snap, and it will get pushed directly to the store. It's super simple. So yeah, if you get stuck at any point, the best place to jump on is Rocket Chat, and you can talk to us on Rocket Chat at any time of the day. We'll hang out on the Snapcraft channel in Rocket Chat. David, myself, and a bunch of others are sat there. So just ping us in there. Have I covered everything? Have I missed anything?
I think you've covered everything. One last thing, though. When we are talking about queuing the Snap experience on flavors, I guess a good example of this is when you want to install Snapd, which is a daemon that powers snaps. For example, on Ubuntu, for some snaps to have sound, you need to install Pulse Audio. And that's something we have discovered. And so we have documented, but there may be other quirks that need to be documented on these flavors. So it's a good starting point as well. If you see something that breaks, just file a bug, and we'll make sure it makes its way into the documentation, because
good point.
This kind of small things are really useful.
It's also worth pointing out that Snapd works on 32-bit and 64-bit systems, and there could be some quirk where something only works on one and doesn't work on the other. So we're interested to know about all of these strange and weird instances. And yeah, again, look at my blog post right down the bottom. It tells you where to file the bugs, and you can also see if people have already filed bugs on the projects. And the main 4 things that you might find bugs in are Snapd itself. So if you have problems installing Snapd, or a snap won't install, or something crashes while you're installing or removing a snap, then that's probably a bug in Snapd, so it can be filed against that. If you're using Snapcraft to try and build something and Snapcraft crashes or acts weirdly or doesn't do what you expect, then perhaps that's a bug in Snapd. If you're following a tutorial and the things that happen on your system aren't the same as what's been listed in the tutorial, then you can file a bug directly on the tutorial itself. And similarly, the documentation. So if there's something is undocumented or is wrong in the documentation, then you can file a bug directly on the documentation itself as well. So those are probably the 4 areas where bugs might occur, and you can think of those 4 kind of containers as where you would put those bugs. But if you get stuck, like I say, just join us on Rocket Chat. There is indeed, in fact, a Rocket Chat Snap. So there's a great first way to test this whole thing is working, is make sure you got Snapd installed, and then install install Rocket Chat -desktop. And there's the Rocket Chat desktop app, which you can then use to connect to Rocket Chat and talk to us. So there's your first easy test.
Nice.
Awesome. We'll have another one of these videos wrapping up at the end of the day, but also we'll post on the forum as well. If you get stuck as well and you think something needs wider discussion, post on the forum, forum.snapcraft.io, and jump on Rocket Chat to chat to us.
Yeah, that's a very good point. The forum is quite high bandwidth, so you will have answers to your question quite rapidly. And yeah, of course, just come chat with us on Rocket Chat. We will answer to all your questions.
Yeah, good point. The Snapcraft forums has users, developers, the Snapd developers, the Snapcraft developers all hang out on there, so they'll all see your post. And many of us have it set up to get your post via email, so we will get notified when you post as well. So yeah, feel free to use the forum as well,
even at night and during the weekend.
Yeah. Yes. All day, all night, always forum posts. Thank you very much. Okay, should we wrap up there? And
yes,
we'll see you all online.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, David. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot.